What up, Internet? It's your boy, RynoRyder, back again. This is RynoRyder's vlog, episode 029. Almost making it to the 30s. Pretty exciting. So this won't be very aesthetically crazy in terms of a vlog. That's what happens when you're a one-man band. Be nice to have somebody to move the camera around or, you know, get close-ups or whatever. Anyway. I just wanted to give you guys an update of things that are going on. So basically, I've been having the itch to write something again. I actually haven't written anything from scratch for about a year, and I've been having the itch for a while. And I was just waiting to find the right inspiration to it. I have several ideas of my own that I could do. They're like sequels to screenplays that haven't even been made yet, and things like that. And then a couple other, I met a Brazilian film director, and he kind of pitched me this idea for a film, for a story he wanted to tell. That would shoot down in Brazil, and he's got a couple of name actors that we can deliver it to right away that will read it. So basically I was waiting for when the inspiration met the the opportunity. I was telling myself I shouldn't write for free anymore or do it on spec or anything like that. But I just really wanted to itch that scratch. I've been really dying to get in and to start writing again. So I figured, so I did. I made the leap and am starting to write a screenplay. And I thought it'd be interesting for you, or maybe get some value or some insight. I've never seen another screenwriter, their process. I did talk with Phil Eisner briefly about it. I'll cut away to that right now. I'm very post-it note. I'm very right, because I love the restrictions. So I get super structured, and I'm like, I don't know. I just have I keep looking up because I put things on walls.
Well, I know. I was looking around to see if there was a post-it note, but there wasn't.
No, but do you see the front of that door?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
your door?
I did that yesterday.
Okay.
Like that's how I.
All right.
That's
all right. All right.
So I'm very like structured in that. I'm like, it's gonna be a 7-act play or play.
Right.
5-act structure, whatever. I start from, the super macro of like 5 acts. Okay, act 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then character, you know what I mean? Like I break it down like that. So I'd be really curious to hear how your process is. Somebody says go, yes, that's a good idea. Go write it, even if getting paid or not getting paid.
Right.
The creative goes go.
Well, I always think that first of all, I've got it's that idea that you have a bunch of ideas warring in your head for dominance. So it's. And when I'm not working on something specifically, then it's a thing of which one of these picks up traction. So I'll work on one. But I have a pretty organic process in the sense that I might write down a note of a scene I want to see, and then I'll write a scene. And by a scene, I'm just talking about like 3, 4, 5 pages. So there's this idea for a character, and it's like, oh, they need to be doing, it's that thing of beginning to give them definition. And then I might use some mind mapping software to map out an idea of a plot, like just to get the ideas down. That's the computer version of doing post-it notes. It's like I don't have to be linear in my thoughts. I can like slap an idea down here, slap an idea down there, and if there's a connection between them, I can draw the connection and make a note on what the connection is. So it's pretty free form. And then I will get to the point where one hits critical mass, and when that then just blows out all the other ideas, and it's like going to focus on this. And at that point, I will outline, but I will not do a detailed outline. My outlines are never more than 10 pages long.
Wow.
And sometimes as short as 5.
And so I think that's a more common way how screenwriters approach they just come up with scenes and then kind of piece them together, which makes sense. That's how I did the last film, the one on addiction, that I adapted from a book. I literally just pulled out scenes that I thought were cinematic and then just kind of pieced them all together. But I thought I'd give you some insight into how I go about writing an original story. As you can see, I've already kind of gotten started. The first thing I did was just dove into research online. The film's set in Brazil. It has to do with like the Brazilian folklore and the culture and history and the kind of mystery of the country. So I learned some really fascinating stuff about it. That was cool. And then I just started taking notes. You know, I don't know, I have like 6 or 7 pages of notes of just ideas and things that I think would be cinematic to incorporate into the story. So that's how I start, and then once I kind of get going, I also, if you looked at my last Instagram post, I also find my inspiration from 1 or 2 films that are kind of the launching pad for me, that like, not remake, but I want to take the essence of those films and use that as like a springboard for my inspiration. You saw The Abyss was one of them, and the other one, because it's set in this Brazilian jungle, my head immediately went to, and I just watched it a couple weeks ago, my favorite film of all time, which is That's right, Predator. So I those are like kind of the films that are inspiring me right now. And so I watched it last night. I watched The Abyss. I took a bunch more notes about it, really breaking down the screenplay as I was watching it, or the story, the structure of it. And I'm stealing it. Great artists. Good artists copy, great artists steal. That's a saying. Anyway, so if you go back and watch The Abyss, it is a 5-act structure, and so this is how the first thing I put up is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my 5 acts, and then these are the actions and the scenes that will play in each act until the very end. So I almost sit back and look and I can visualize the entire movie and where the holes that need to be filled in terms of the story. It's a lot like a puzzle. It's probably a lot like, it's very like, again, I'm very binary in how I work about it. I do believe that storytelling can be quantified and sequenced, if you will. Shout out, Kev. Yeah, into like literally ones and zeros. So based on the original pitch idea from the director, I added a few more characters, and he also didn't have any supernatural element. I did add it, and it'll be interesting, but I was like, trust me, I'll maintain the integrity of his idea. Was very, very simple and very loose, and so I really kind of have free reign to go with it. So here are the 8 characters. It's has to do with siblings. So there's an older brother, middle sister, younger brother, and then on the other side, the mother, the girlfriend, the wife, and then the guide and the mule. I just kind of give those terms of those are the characters. I don't give a shit about names, like character names, really at all. That'll come way down the line. For now, that's the more important thing because, like at the root of this, it's going to have to do with family and trust and relationships, hiding, lying, betrayal, things of that nature. So, and then aliens. So those are my characters. I got my acts. From there, I then went and, okay, what is the theme of each act that I want? And literally by just going over my notes and just looking at the wall, once it's up, like I can just sit back and look and my brain starts to work. So Act 1 is obviously set up, and I actually already have outlined pretty much all of Act 1. So I know what I'm going to do here. Act 2 is going to be about the culture. You know, they basically, these Americans travel to this small town in Brazil and go on a hiking thing, you know, and experience it. And this is all based on the real town that the director has grown up going to his whole life. So, and as I researched online, I found the culture to be super fascinating. Really, really fascinating. If you don't know anything about the Brazilian culture, and specifically like the slavery that came in, you should check it out. It's really incredible. Brazil was actually responsible for 40% of the African slaves that were brought over to the Americas, and they were also the last country to abolish slavery in 1888. So I never knew that. Maybe growing up in the great US of A, they don't teach that, but they should. So anyway, Act 2 is going to have the culture is going to be kind of the theme of it. The meat. This is the meat. Act 3. The hardest part of storytelling is the middle. The hardest part. It's easy to set up. It's easy to finish. This is where you're going to lose your audience, and this is where you're going to tell a shitty story. So the theme of Act 3 is mystery. Act 4, we ramp it up. The theme is danger. And then I finish with Act 5 that is going to be about the beauty of it. Again, if you haven't seen The Abyss, go back and watch it. And you'll see it's pretty similar in terms of the themes of each act and how they're laid out. So from there, then I have several different colored post-it notes, and I look at my story, and I look and now I just need to fill the holes. And so I began with ultimately what the whole thing is about, what we begin with and what we end with have to do with the aliens. And so but that can't be the entire story. There's a villain, there's siblings, there's so many other things that are going to go into it, but I just needed the skeleton of the aliens, because I know I'm going to begin and finish with it. And so I know that I already wrote the intro. I know I'm going to begin with that to right off the bat let the audience know that, hey, this is a supernatural, or has supernatural elements from the get, so they're not confused. And then I know, just in my head, in terms of like storytelling, about midway through Act 2, I'm going to need to have my first encounter. And then I'm bookending Act 3 with a scary one, scary 2. So to keep both the audience and the characters unaware of what's going on, and maybe these aliens are bad or out to hurt them. They ultimately are not. Again, watch The Abyss. But I know in the meat of the story, I need a couple of those. So then in Act 4, this is where the aliens are going to begin to instill fear, ramp up that fear. It's going to be mixed or coincide with the antagonist. But then by the end of that act, the fear goes away. So the protagonist will not be as afraid, or maybe start to gain some understanding to what these aliens are. And then Act 5, I end it with the full alien reveal and beauty outro. So I begin it, beauty intro, end it with the beauty outro. In between all that shit, that's the story, right? That's the difficult part. So I open with the beauty intro, but then I know the very next thing I need to do is introduce the main character. At least for right now, I'm pretty sure that's mostly right. So then these are placeholders for the main character, the younger brother, and his wife. They're going to be probably the central characters. And so their theme is going to be the most important to follow. So, and then the green ones for each act, although I have the theme, I wanted to showcase like a different myth or story of the Brazilian culture, as kind of not red herrings, bigger than red herrings, but that same type of thing of not letting the audience into the full what is going on until the very end, the full alien reveal. So and the aliens are going to have these like shape-shifting qualities, and so for each one there's going to be a different creature or form that they will take, or a way. Again, watch the Abyss. In Act 3, right here, where that happens, that's where the water tentacle comes out. Now, we've seen the aliens before underwater in the little ships, and there's different ships, but we've never seen this water tentacle come out. That's where I'm kind of going in terms of these, like different forms that these aliens can show, just to keep the audience really guessing, and the characters, and not knowing what's going on until I show both the characters and the audience. So that's it. I just thought I'd give you some insight into how my brain works in terms of this is how I start writing a screenplay. Long before opening up Final Draft and hitting fade in. It's the last thing I do. I try to force myself to put as much work into this, into the outlining, and once I fill out all of this, I'll then break down each scene beat by beat by beat by beat, and then take all those scenes with the beats and then put those into a treatment. So 0 dialogue, just pure description of the scenes and the beats and how it flows. Then I'll put it into Final Draft, and I'll begin writing the screenplay, and I'll still probably hesitate on putting any dialogue in, unless something comes to me that I think is, because I am good at writing dialogue, but it only comes from, people get confused that they think, oh, if I just write witty dialogue, I can write witty scenes. That's incorrect. This is what it takes to write great scenes. A lot of work and a lot of planning, and then the dialogue is tertiary at best, and comes at the very end of the game. I think dialogue is 5% of the importance of a screenplay. And then after you do it, that's after you write several screenplays and having done all this work, that's where you can have fun and explore more with the dialogue and like, this is a cool line, or witty line, whatever, and they work because they pay off because you've done the work and done the construction, the foundation of everything. So anyway, appreciate it, you guys. If you've learned anything from this video or have any questions, please leave a comment. I'll read them all, answer them all. Yeah, that's it. Please subscribe. That would be great. I'm trying to build that up, and maybe share it with a friend. If you know a friend who's a screenwriter or filmmaker or creative, or you just think I'm really charming and gorgeous and send it on to someone else, that'd be amazing as well. Yeah, that's it. So I'm going to keep working and keep documenting and bring you along on this journey. And who knows, we'll see how this story turns out. In the meantime, please go watch The Abyss. And then this will make more sense to you. It's a really fantastic movie. Shout out to you, Jim. RynoRyder, out. So, I don't know if you can tell, but like, it's legit snowing in fucking Topanga. This is crazy.